रामनवमी महामहोत्सव की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी कारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful and grateful to be here with everybody on the most auspicious occasion of Sri Ramnavami. And as aspiring devotees, it is our responsibility to celebrate these festivals in a very gorgeous manner so that we can glorify the Lord and for our own purification as well. So for the next 30 minutes or so, I seek your blessings to speak something from the Valmiki Ramayana so that we can all observe ourselves in the Vilas and the qualities and the lessons we can learn from the Ramayana. Of course, Ramayana is an ocean, and even a month is not sufficient to actually describe all the pastimes of the Ramayana in detail. We have only about 30 minutes, so I'll do what I can in terms of picking out certain aspects from this ocean, which is the Ramayana, based on what I've heard from the Acharyas, from my own study of the Acharyas' commentaries, from the Valmiki Ramayana. The Valmiki Ramayana has 24,000 verses and is split in 7 books called Kandas. The first Kanda is called the Bala Kanda. The Bala Kanda describes the pastimes of how the Ramayana came to be written by Valmiki Muni. It also describes a little bit about the history of Ayodhya and how Dasharath Maharaj ruled Ayodhya and how he was in total despair because he didn't have a son who could rule the kingdom after him, and how he was advised to perform certain sacrifices so that he could get a son. And he got not one but 4 sons. So the whole birth of Lord Ram, and interestingly, the Balakanda does not have too much about the childhood pastimes of Lord Ram. So if you look at the title, Balakanda, Bala means child, and one would expect that there would be extensive descriptions of the childhood pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Similar to how we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many, many chapters describing the infant pastimes of Krishna and then childhood pastimes. But in the Valmiki Ramayana, in the very few verses, Lord Ramachandra grows up from being a little baby to a young man. So if you have time, maybe I'll also tell you why the first kanda of the Ramayana is called Balakanda. Although it doesn't have so much about the childhood pastime of Ramachandra. Why is it called Balakanda? And it progresses through how Lord Ramachandra was a student of Vasishtha, how he learned from Vasishtha, and he went to the forest with Vishwamitra Muni to help protect Vishwamitra Muni from the demons who were destroying all the sacrifices they were performing. It talks about that, and then how Ram and Lakshman, they killed all these demons, and eventually they found their way to this city of Mithila, which was the abode of Janak Maharaj, and how Sita and Ram got married, Lakshman and Bharat and Shatrugna also got married. So this talks about all those pastimes and how Lord Ramachandra came back to Ayodhya. So the Balakanda speaks about all these pastimes. And then we have the next section called the Ayodhya Kanda, where all the drama about how Kaikeyi banishes Lord Ramachandra the forest and tries to install Rama as the king. But the pastimes of Ramayana are very familiar to all of you. So, and of course we don't have so much time to get into the details of the pastimes, the whole pastime itself. But I'm just giving you a sense of the various books in the Ramayana, so you can get a sense of how these books are organized. And then in the Ayodhya Kandas, when Ram gets banished in the forest, Bharat tries to go and bring him back, but Lord Ramachandra is determined to follow the order of his father and doesn't come back. The next section, Kanda, is the Aranya Kanda. Aranya means forest. And so this describes how Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman and Sita were in the forest. Also has the pastime of Surpanaka, Ravana's sister, comes and she has her nose cut off, and then she goes and eventually instigates Ravana that you must possess Sita. She is the most beautiful personality and she must be enjoyed by you. And Ravana gets inspired, if that's the right word, and he comes and kidnaps Sita. That whole pastime is in the Aranya Kanda. And then the next section is called Kishkinda Kanda. And Kishkinda Kanda is where the search for Sita begins, where Lakshman and Ram, they come into the forest of Kishkinda, they meet with Hanuman, they meet with Sugriva, the killing of Bali, and then the search for Sita. And then the section after that is also very popular. It's called Sundaraganda. Sundaraganda is the finding of Sita. And Hanumanji goes and finds Sita in Lanka. He burns the whole of Lanka. He speaks with Sita, gives the message of Lord Ram to Sita. And it's called Sundaraganda because the name of Hanuman is Sundar. That's his given name. So all the pastimes of Hanuman are described in the Sundaraganda. And then the Yuddha Kanda. Yuddha means war. The battle for Lanka happens in the Yuddha Kanda. And then Ravana is defeated, and Lord Ramachandra brings Sita and Hanuman back, and Lakshman, they all go back to Ayodhya. And finally there is a Uttarakanda. The Uttarakanda, Uttara also means north, it also means final in one sense. So in Sanskrit, some of these words have many, many meanings. Uttara means north, it also means the ending or closing chapter, closing section. In this section, Uttarakanda, Lord Ramachandra comes back, he's coronated as the king, he rules for many years, and then eventually there's also the description of the banishment of Sita, which many devotees find hard to understand or explain. But of course, there's a lot of Shastric meaning in that. The Acharyas have given a lot of commentaries as well. And then finally, the departure of Rama and Sita. So in these 7 books and 24,000 verses, the entire story of Ramayana is encompassed. And there are unlimited meanings that we can get from the various pastimes in the Ramayana. So I'm hoping that maybe as the next 30 minutes or so, I can pick out maybe a couple of specific pastimes that are very close to my heart in terms of how I think about how we can, as practicing devotees, practice devotional service. I'll also read some verses from Valmiki Ramayana. These verses I like a lot, so I usually read them on Ramnavami Day as well. And we can just hear some of the qualities of Lord Ramachandra. We may not have the time to get into each of these qualities. So the beginning of the Valmiki Ramayana begins with Valmiki Muni having a discussion with his guru. His guru is Narada Muni. And if you notice this pattern, even in the Bhagavatam, anytime a great personality, before they exhibit their greatness, there's always a hand of Narada Muni in their life. Whether it's Prahlad Maharaj or Dhruva Maharaj or any of these personalities. Even in fact, before the Bhagavatam was even written, Srila Vyasadeva was despondent. He'd compiled all the Vedas, he had written the Mahabharata, he was not feeling satisfaction. And that's when Narada Muni very kindly comes to the ashram of Vyasadeva, and he inspires him to write the Bhagavatam. He inspires him to directly glorify the Supreme Lord. So Narada Muni is such a great personality that all the great devotees of the Lord take inspiration from Narada Muni. So Valmiki is no different. And when, in the beginning of the Valmiki Ramayana, it describes the conversation between Narada Muni and Valmiki, where when Valmiki sees Narada Muni, he asks him some questions. And in those questions he says, who is the personality who exhibits a number of wonderful qualities? He enumerates those qualities. He actually enumerates 16 of those qualities. And we'll read the verses that describe those 16 qualities. I'll touch on those 16 qualities, and maybe I will, based on how we have time, maybe pick 2 or 3 qualities and actually just speak about how these qualities were beautifully exhibited by Lord Ramachandra in the various pastimes that he left for us to relish. So I'll just read the verses, and of course Valmiki Ramayana is so auspicious to even hear, so unfortunately we don't have the facility for everybody to chant. But I'll read the verses simply by hearing them, simply by giving oral reception to the words of Valmiki Muni. We can all be glorified and we can be purified. So this is from the Balakanda of the Valmiki Ramayana. These are texts 2, 3 and 4. So this is Valmiki Muni speaking. Kosmin sampratam loke gunavan kasya viryavan dharmagya krutagyascha satyavakyo durapratah. चारित्रेण च को युक्तः सर्वभूतेषु को हितः विद्वान् कलकसमर्थश्च कश्चैका प्रियदर्शनः आत्मवान् को जितक्रोधो द्युतिमान् को न सूयवः कस्य बिभ्यति देवाश्च जातरोषस्य संयुगे. So Valmiki Muni is asking, currently, who is that personality present on earth? Who is Gunavan? Who is a reservoir of all qualities? Who is all the great qualities present in one person? Who is that person? Who is Gunavan? Guna, of course, has multiple meanings. Going into Sanskrit Linguistics a little bit, if you look at in Bhagavad Gita, gunas are described as the modes. The 3 gunas, the modes of material nature. In this case, the meaning that's expressed is quality, not so much the modes. And Gunavan means one who possesses these qualities. Just like Bhagavan. We say Bhagavan, Bhaga means opulence. And Bhagavan is one who possesses opulences. Dhanavan means one who possesses dhana. Rupavan means one who possesses rupa or beauty. So Gunavan means one who possesses qualities. So who is that personality who possesses all these wonderful qualities? In one person. Who's Viryavan? Viryavan means courageous. Who's not afraid in any circumstance. Viryavan. And then he continues. Dharmagya. Dharmagya, one who knows dharma at all times. And not just knows, but also knows how to apply them appropriately. And not just knows how to apply them, but actually applies them. These are three separate things, right? One is to know what to do. Second is to know how to do it. And the third is to actually do it. In many cases, we may know the right answer. We may know how to act in a certain circumstance. But we may not know how to act. Since I'm a cook, I'll give you a cooking example. Many times you may know what to cook, but you may not know how to cook it. So both are required. It's just not enough to know that you have to make halwa. You have to know how to make halwa. And not enough to just know how to make halwa, you have to actually make it. Only then you can offer bhoga and devotees can honor prasadam. Right? So for prasadam to be offered to devotees, the intent has to be there, the knowledge has to be there, the action also has to be there. It's not enough for just one. So the action is there without the knowledge, then God help the devotees for taking the halwa. It may not come out very well. If the knowledge is there but the intent is not there, then no halwa will be made. So all 3 are required. And Lord Ramachandra, in terms of dharma, exhibits all 3 qualities. Understands dharma, knows how to apply it, and also actually applies it at the appropriate time. So that's dharmagya. We'll get into these qualities a little more, we'll describe them, maybe a couple of them. And then kritagya. Kritagya means grateful. Literally speaking, kritagya. Gya means to know. It comes from the same word as jnana, right? Jnani, same word, but kritagya. And krita means something that has been done. So kritagya literally means having knowledge or acknowledging something that has been done for us. That's gratefulness, that's gratitude. And Lord Ramachandra is the epitome of gratitude. And gratitude is a very essential quality we have to develop even as aspiring devotees. If the Lord can exhibit gratitude, then what difficulty is there for us to exhibit gratitude? So we usually remember things that are unpleasant. Very hard for us to remember things that are pleasant. So Kritagya means to remember things that are pleasant. And Satyavakya, that's the next quality that Amrit asks about. Satyavakya means always speaks the truth under all circumstances. And knowing what to speak, where to speak, how to speak, and when to speak. And Dhruva Dhruva means fixed, determined. Vrata means vow. So one who's fixed in his vow. We make vows. Most people make vows every New Year. I will do this, I will do that. Usually lasts for maybe 2 or 3 days into the New Year. Maybe longer if you're lucky. Right? Lord Ramachandra exhibits the quality of Dhrida Vrata. And then Charitrena ko yuktaha. Charitra means character. So one who's fully endowed with the highest character, the Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra is called Maryada Purushottam, means that he is always very mindful of what's the right action, what's the right behavior in every circumstance. That's why he's called Charitrena ko yuktaha. Sarva bhuteshu ko hita. Sarva bhuta means of all living entities. Hita means well-wisher. So he's the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. And that is the definition of a devotee as well. Surda Sarvadehina. Well-wisher of all living entities. Srila Prabhupada, he would always sign every letter by saying, "You're ever well-wisher." So your well-wisher is not somebody who does what you like, but somebody who does what you need. And that is your real well-wisher. And Lord Ramachandra, or Krishna, is our ever well-wisher. Vidwan is, he knows everything that needs to be known. Past, present, and future. And Samarthasya, extremely capable. So someone is a well-wisher, but is not very capable, doesn't help us too much. Right? So there are some devotees who are medical practitioners, and if you have a medical question, they can help you, they're capable. I'm not a medical practitioner, so I may be a well-wisher, but if you have a medical question, I'm completely incapable of helping you. So simply being a well-wisher is not sufficient. You should also have capacity, capability. And so Lord Ramachandra exhibits the quality of Samarthasya. And Core. Eka Priya Darshana. Priya Darshana means extremely pleasing to look at. So Lord Ramachandra, actually among all the qualities, the Acharyas in the Sri Sampradaya, they speak about all the qualities of Ramachandra. The one that's most attractive is his beauty. Ramachandra is extremely beautiful to look at. In fact, Dasharath Maharaj could not take his eyes off Ramachandra, ever. When he was born, he was spellbound. Valmiki Ramayana described that when he heard the news that Kausalya has given birth to a son, he came rushing to the palace of Kausalya. And he had made up his mind that as soon as he saw the child, he will donate thousands of cows, he will give donation to the Brahmanas. He made all these sankalpas or determinations in his mind. And then he came and he saw Lord Ramachandra, he completely forgot everything. He completely forgot, he was mesmerized by the beauty of Lord Ramachandra. And as Lord Ramachandra grew, his beauty only increased. His beauty only increased. In fact, when he went to Mithila and he was walking around the town of Mithila, the residents of Mithila were so mesmerized, they couldn't take their eyes off Lord Ramachandra. The same kind of pastime you see in the past of Lord Krishna as well. Lord Krishna enters Mathura. The residents of Mathura are unable to take their eyes off Krishna. Even in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, descriptions of how Lord Krishna enters Dwaraka comes. And the residents of Dwaraka are unable to take their eyes off the Lord. He's so beautiful. In fact, simply by hearing the descriptions of the beauty of Lord, the devotees become completely captivated. In the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, the story of the Brahmana's wives. The Brahmana's wives had never seen Krishna. They had never previously actually seen Krishna. They had only heard about Krishna from the forest woman who would see Krishna, or the cowherd woman who would come and give them milk. They had only heard about the beauty of Krishna. And simply by hearing about the beauty of Krishna, they were so captivated by the beauty of Krishna that when they just heard that Krishna is here, nearby, and he wants food, they just grabbed whatever food they could get and ran. Their hearts were completely captivated by Krishna. And Atmavan, another quality he speaks about. Atmavan is one who's completely self-controlled. His mind, his desires, and Jita Krodha. Jita Krodha is one who's conquered his anger. And Dyutiman. Dyutiman is another quality that Valmiki Muni asked about. Dyutiman means effulgent, brilliant. Anasuya Vada. Anasuya means one who's non-envious. And the last quality that Valmiki Muni asked about is, who is that person who even the devatas, the demigods, are afraid if he becomes angry and takes up his weapons? Even the devatas are afraid of this personality. Who is that personality? So Valmiki Muni asks this question in these 3 verses to Narada Muni, and he enumerates 16 qualities that we quickly discussed. Who is this personality that has all these 16 qualities? And Narada Muni, he listens to the question, he closes his eyes, and he remembers Lord Ramachandra. And he's not able to answer immediately. Not because he doesn't know the answer, but he's so overwhelmed, and he thinks of Lord Ramachandra, he thinks of these 16 qualities, he's completely overwhelmed. And then he says, the personality who possesses all these 16 qualities is residing in Ayodhya as the king of Ayodhya. He is Lord Ramachandra. And in brief few verses, he describes the pastime of Lord Ramachandra and instructs his disciple to write about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, which Valmiki does in 24,000 verses of the Valmiki Ramayana. So we touched on the 16 qualities very quickly. What I would like to do, with your permission, is maybe take 1 or 2 of these qualities and describe how Lord Ramachandra exhibited these qualities at various times. And I wanted to focus on maybe just 2 of them. One is Kritagyata, Kritagya, the other is Dharmagya. Kritagya means grateful, and Dharmagya means one who knows Dharma at all times, knows how to apply it, and also actually applies it. Like we discussed, it's not enough just to know. That's the first step. Second is to know how to apply it. And third step is to actually apply it. And all of you know the story that Lord Ramachandra was the oldest son of Dashrath, and Dashrath Maharaj decided to coronate Lord Ramachandra as the king. Actually, at least it was humorous to me, so I don't know if it's humorous to you. I'll narrate this. So when Dashrath Maharaj actually announces to his court that I've decided that I've ruled for 60,000 years, and I've decided that I will coronate Lord Rama as the king. There's a huge applause. There's a huge noise. And Dasharatha Maharaj is actually surprised how enthusiastically this decision is accepted. And in fact, his ministers say that in your 60,000 years of rule, this is the best decision you've ever made. And so Dasharatha Maharaj is thinking for a second. The Acharyas comment, they say that Dasharatha Maharaj is wondering, am I such a bad king? That as soon as I said I'm stepping away, everybody is so overjoyed to see me go. And then the ministers tell Dasharatha Maharaj that no, you're the most wonderful king, but your son excels everyone in qualities. So we are so thrilled to have him as the king. So the applause and our appreciation is for that decision because Lord Ramachandra's qualities are exceptional. And when Dasharatha Maharaj hears that, he's pacified. And he's very pleased himself that yes, I made the right decision. So even Dasharatha Maharaj was taken aback for a second. How quickly his ministers and his citizens were thrilled that Ramachandra is being crowned as king. So then he told his ministers and Vashishta, let's do this right away. Let's do it tomorrow. Of course, there are reasons for that specifically. We won't get into that. But he says, let's do it tomorrow. So all the arrangements are made. And you know the story that how when Manthara, who was the maidservant of Kaikeyi, she goes and tells Kaikeyi that, do you know, Lord Ram is going to be crowned as king. You know what that means to you? You become a maidservant. So she poisons her, and Kaikeyi eventually comes under her spell. So a side note here that hearing blasphemy is very, very dangerous. Simply by hearing blasphemy of Lord Ram, Kaikeyi, who was actually very affectionate towards Lord Ramachandra just a few minutes ago, became completely inimical. And of course, in this day and age, you can simply put something on all these social media platforms and it becomes huge blasphemy. So the ability to blasphemize in a major way is made easy for us. So we should be very careful what we consume and what we even say. So simply by consuming blasphemy, Kaikeyi's mind became poisoned. And then she asked for these two vows from Dasharatha Maharaj. One was that Bharat should become king, and Ram should be sent to the forest for 14 years. Now, they summoned Lord Ramachandra to the palace of Kaikeyi. And Lord Ramachandra has no idea. He's still thinking that maybe my father called me to give me some instructions for tomorrow. So he comes in, all the paraphernalia for a coronation, he sees on the way, and he smiles, and he walks inside. And there he sees a completely different scene. His father is on the floor, and Kaikeyi is also in a very different mood. So Kaikeyi tells Lord Ramachandra that if father would like to tell you something, but he's too ashamed to say anything. So if you permit me, I will speak it. I will say it on his behalf. Lord Ramachandra says, yes, please. And Kaikeyi says, I will only say it if you promise me that you will follow the instructions that are given. And Lord Ramachandra is taken aback. He says, I'm surprised that you even asked this question. There is no question of me thinking about whether I should follow the instructions of my father or not. So you can speak it, whatever it is. And so she tells him that your father would want to make Bharat as the king and send you to the forest for 14 years. And Lord Ramachandra is completely unfazed. He's not thinking, oh, what does that mean? You said yesterday I would be king, and today... So he's not arguing, he's not surprised, he's just very equipoised. But he says one thing to Kaikeyi. He says, I'm disappointed that you do not have confidence in my relationship with you. I'm your son. So even if you had told me that I had to go to the forest, I would have gone. There was no need for even my father to say this, because, and what hurts me is that you don't have confidence in my relationship to you, that I'm subservient to your instructions. And he knew the position of his position as a son to follow Dharma under all circumstances. And he was immediately prepared to give up his kingdom and go to the forest. And in fact, even when he went to the forest, after Bharat came, Bharat was completely caught unawares. He didn't ask for this kingdom. He didn't instruct Kaikeyi to do anything on his behalf. But all this happened behind his back. And when he came, he was completely caught unawares. He was completely shocked. So he decides to go to the forest and bring Ramchandra back. And they make all sorts of arguments why Ram should come back. In fact, there's one of the sages who goes with Bharat. His name is Jabali Rishi. And he speaks complete atheism. He says, who knows what's going to happen at the end of his life? Right? We're all made of chemicals anyway, and after you die, who knows what's going to happen? So we should enjoy as much as possible. And now that you have the kingdom and the father is gone, who knows what's going to happen to him after he's gone? Just come back and enjoy the kingdom. So he was even trying to use atheism to convince Lord Ramchandra to come back. And Lord Ramchandra was so fixed that, I've decided this is the order of my father, and it will be followed. And Lord Ramchandra was very clear from the very beginning that he will follow the dharma of the son to go to the forest, and he was asked to stay for 14 years. That's what he will do. That is one example of dharma. How he was always ready to follow the path of dharma, regardless of the price that he personally had to pay for personal inconvenience or anything else. And I'll speak about one more thing, we'll stop, about the quality of gratitude. And this personality in the Ramayana is always one of the most inspiring personalities for me personally. This is Jatayu. Now, Jatayu is a vulture. And in the grand scheme of bird lineage, vultures are not the most beautiful birds or the most sweet singing birds or anything. So he was a vulture. And he was also very old. It is said he was several thousand years old. And near the end of his life. So when Sita was being kidnapped by Ravana, this vulture saw Sita going in this airborne chariot. And he recognized this is Sita. And Sita also called out to him, please save me. And without hesitation, Jatayu immediately flew up and started fighting with Ravana. And in that fight, he fought valiantly, but he was just no match for Ravana. Ravana was extremely strong. And had Jatayu been a young bird, he might have still been a tough match for Ravana. But at the advanced age, it was very difficult. But he fought as best as he could. But Ravana's power was too much. And eventually body parts of Jatayu started getting cut off. And eventually Jatayu fell down. And he was bleeding, almost dying. And when Ramachandra comes there, he sees this huge, hideous looking bird. And he thinks that's another demon. And he immediately takes out his bow and arrow. And that's when Jatayu calls out, "Oh my lord, I'm your servant, Jatayu." And Mother Sita was kidnapped by Ravana and they went in the direction of the south. I tried my best, but I couldn't stop them. And the words of Lord Ramachandra to Jatayu express how grateful Lord Ramachandra was. Lord Ramachandra says in the Valmiki Ramayana, he says that the pain of Sita being kidnapped is nothing compared to the pain I feel now to see Jatayu giving up his life for my sake. So, extremely painful for Lord Ramachandra, for Sita to be kidnapped. There's so many sections in the Ramayana where Lord Ramachandra expresses his extreme agony at Sita being kidnapped. But he says that the pain of Sita being kidnapped is nothing compared to the pain I feel that Jatayu had to lay down his life for my sake. And I could do nothing to save him. And in fact, when Jatayu passes away, Lord Ramachandra personally performs the last rites for Jatayu as if he were his own son. Now, all of you may remember that when Maharaj Dasharath passed away, Lord Ramachandra had already left for the forest. The last rites for Maharaj Dasharath should have been performed by the oldest son, by Lord Ramachandra. But Lord Ramachandra was not there. The last rites were performed by Bharat. So Lord Ramachandra did not perform the last rites for his own father, but he performed last rites for Jatayu, expressing his gratitude to Jatayu. And that is how Lord Ramachandra expresses gratitude. In fact, even during the battle, this is the last thing I would say, that is to exhibit the quality of Lord Ramachandra. You can just appreciate the quality. That when during the battle, Vibhishan, who is the brother of Ravan, and he's a devotee of the Lord, he comes to join the army of Lord Ramachandra. And there is a discussion among all the senior members of the Lord Ramachandra army party, including Sugriva and others, Jambavan, that should we accept Vibhishan or not? And the discussion is that, best case scenario, that he has had a change of heart and he's come on our side. But how long is it going to take for him to flip again? Blood is thicker than water. So he may flip again. So we should not accept him. And worst case scenario, he may actually be a spy. He may still be aligned with his brother and just coming here pretending to be on our side so that he can get all our secrets. So either scenario is not good. We should not accept him. Then they ask Hanuman. Hanuman is standing quietly on the side. So they ask Hanuman, what do you think? What do you think we should do? Hanuman being the minister for Sugriva, the wisest personality. And Hanuman says that my desire is whatever Lord Ramachandra's desire is. So whatever Lord Ramachandra wants is my desire. And then they ask Lord Ramachandra, what is your desire? Lord Ramachandra says that I'm helpless in this regard. I have no independence here. If somebody surrenders to me, I have no choice but to accept him. I don't have discretion in this matter. If somebody surrenders to me, he may be the most abominable personality. The moment he decides to surrender to me, I have no choice but to accept him. What about Vibhishan? Even if Ravana were to come and say, I'm sorry I kidnapped Sita, back here again, please forgive me, I will embrace Ravana also. So this is the quality of Lord Ramachandra. He is Bhakta Vatsal, meaning that he is extremely dear to devotees and devotees are extremely dear to him. And how beautifully he expresses helplessness, that if somebody surrenders to me, I don't have the luxury of saying, well, should I accept him or not? I'm helplessly bound by my nature to accept them. And that's the beauty of the Supreme Lord. That is the glory of the Lord that we're praying to. That no matter what our prior qualifications, no matter what our prior actions, no matter what our prior conceptions, if we accept the Lord and chant His holy name and worship Him, He wholeheartedly embraces and accepts us. So on this glorious occasion of Sri Ramnavami, I'm grateful that I was able to describe a couple of qualities of Lord Ramachandra. Of course, qualities of Lord Ramachandra are unlimited. And the more we spend time reading the scriptures, the more we get the taste of the qualities of Lord Rama. So, I wish you all very happy Ramnavami. And if there are any questions, maybe for 5 minutes we can take. Yes, Prabhuji.
So, Prabhuji, Katie asked for two things, right? One is her to be king. That makes sense because she wanted her son to be king. But what is the logic or reason behind sending Ramchandra to forest for 14 years? Was that she doesn't want Ramchandra to interfere with how Bharat is going to manage the kingdom or anything else?
So, the question I'll repeat so that everybody can hear. That from Kaikeyi's perspective, it makes sense for her to think that Bharat should be king. But what was the logic for sending Ram to the forest for 14 years? And in diplomacy, when you have a change of guard, she didn't want any interference from Lord Ramachandra. She was afraid that if Ramachandra was still in Ayodhya, you have to remember the scenario there, right? Lord Ramachandra was extremely popular. He was the most popular personality. In fact, he was more popular than Dasharath Maharaj. And the citizens of Ayodhya were outraged that Dasharath Maharaj decided to now make Bharat the king and send Ram away. So the popular opinion, not just majority but unanimously in Ayodhya, was everybody wanted Ram to be king. So in that scenario, if Ram was still in Ayodhya, although Ramchandra would not have done anything, but Kaikeyi's mindset was that she was also a Kshatriya lady. So she thought in terms of political intrigue, and she said, well, if Ram being so popular continues to stay in the city, then it will be impossible for Bharat to rule. But if Rama goes to the forest for 14 years, long period of time, that's enough time for Bharat to establish himself and people to forget Ram. Of course, that never happened. But that was the idea. Prabhuji.
So you mentioned how Lord Ramchandra accepted the order of his father without question and went to the forest. Sometimes we see in the Vedas that a son or disciple will sometimes reject the order of the father. For example, Bali Maharaj's guru, he rejected his order. And the four Kumaras, they were ordered by their father to beget children, but they rejected that. So sometimes it looks like it appears that it's okay to reject the order of the superior. So what makes this, what's different about this?
Very nice question. I'm sure you can answer it better than I can. But there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 6th verse, verse 6. And it says, Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshare ahituki apratiyata yayatma suprasidati. So it says, among people in general, the highest dharma is to worship the Supreme Lord. And that should be done without any motivation, without any interruption. And that is the only thing that can satisfy the soul. The point about this verse is that it says paro dharma, or highest dharma, which gives us the idea that there is a gradation of dharmas. So all dharmas are not created equal. There's Raja dharma, there's Pitra dharma as a father, there's Matra dharma, there is a dharma as a husband, there's a grahastha, a varnashrama dharma. So when these dharmas conflict, what wins? Which is the higher dharma? And the highest dharma is to worship the Supreme Lord without interruption, without motivation. And that is the gradation of dharma that the Vedic literature teaches us about. Always a gradation of dharma. So in the case of Lord Ramachandra, he came with the higher purpose of destroying Ravana. That was the purpose of the incarnation in the first place. And the incarnation and Lord Ramachandra wanted to also establish the proper behavior of an ideal king, ideal son, ideal husband, ideal brother. So you could not just go and attack Ravana whimsically. That would be contrary to Dharma. Ravana did not do anything to him. Then Lord Ramachandra just marching down to Lanka and killing Ravana would seem whimsical. So there has to be a reason that causes Ravana to act in a certain way that allows Ramachandra to retaliate and kill Ravana because he's done something. And similarly, we see in the pastimes of Lord Krishna as well. When Kamsa was taking Devaki and he was just nicely driving the chariot, the demigods felt, well, this is a problem. If Kamsa becomes very affectionate and loses his demonic mentality, then there's no reason for Krishna to kill him. So it induces the devatas to prophesize that, hey Kamsa, the eighth child of this lady that you're carrying is going to kill you. And that immediately made Kamsa to show his true colors. Right? So in the case of Lord Ramachandra, the purpose of his incarnation is to kill Ravana. So all the activities that are happening in the pastime of Lord Ramachandra are ultimately to enable that culmination of activity of killing Ravana. And if Lord Ramachandra was happily the king and living in Ayodhya, there's no reason for him to go to Lanka and kill Ravana. So the whole pastime had to be enacted by the grace of the Lord. I may not be exactly answering the question, but the point is that the highest dharma is satisfaction of the Lord. And every other dharma, whether it's Pitra dharma or Matra dharma, is subservient to that. And in as much as the other dharmas are aligned with that supreme dharma, that's great. If they're not aligned, then sometimes it's okay to go against the lower dharma to follow the higher dharma. I know we are out of time, so I'll stop here. Thank you. Siddharam Lakshman Hanuman ki jai.
Thank you very much, Anand Vilas Prabhu. Very nice talk on Lord Ramachandra. We have a book here that Krishna Prabhu is going to talk about briefly on the Ramayana.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What time is the arti just now?
In a couple minutes.
Okay. So, most of you have read or at least heard of the Ramayana, right?
Right.
Yeah, here, we have somebody. So, there's many different Ramayanas actually, and some of them say different things. But we have a particular Ramayana here that's in the line of Srila Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna movement. It's a very nice commentary. So you can really rely on the information here in this Ramayana. We have it outside on the book table outside if you want to come. Also, for people, is there anybody here who's here for the first time? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. That's it? Okay. So for new people, you get a free gift book at the book table outside after the article. Okay, don't forget. So, one other thing. Oh, here it is. Has anybody seen this magazine before? Yeah, you've seen it. Yeah. How, according to the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana, how long back did Lord Ramachandra appear? What was his time? How long? Guess. What do you say?
1,000 million, trillion, million years ago.
Well, what do you say? Huh?
12,000.
12,000, you say 12,000. Anybody else? Yeah.
50,000.
50,000. Do I hear more? Do I have 60? Do I hear 60? Yeah.
19,000.
What?
19,000.
19,000. Well, actually, now we're in Kali Yuga is 5,000 years. And then before Kali Yuga is Dvapara Yuga. How long is Dvapara Yuga? 800,000 years. And then before that was what? How long was Treta Yuga?
1,600.
1,200,000 years. Right, so Lord Ramachandra appeared at the beginning, according to the Vedic view, the beginning of Treta Yuga, which is added up. How many years is that? Come on. What's that? 2 million years ago. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? No, not possible, not possible. Why? Well, because the generally accepted view is that human beings didn't exist on the earth, and they first evolved about 100,000 years ago in Africa. That's what they tell you. The scientists tell you that. Well, guess what? There's lots of evidence that human beings, fully developed human beings, have been on the earth for millions of years, including Lord Ramachandra. He wasn't a human being, but he was acting as a human being. And if you'd like to find out some details about that, here. We've got this book here. See how thick it is? This is full of examples of evidence of fully developed, advanced culture being present on the earth for millions of years. But that information has been either ignored or suppressed. So if you'd really like to if you're really serious about understanding it, this is the book. It's called Forbidden Archaeology. And if you're not quite as serious, there's a couple articles in this book, this magazine, Origin, that describes the basic ideas of that. So we'd like everybody, this is out there on the table too, we'd like everybody to take one of these today, Origin magazine, on your way out, okay? Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gurapadu. I wanted to take this time on this auspicious day of Lord Ramachandra's appearance day and to appreciate two devotees that have served very dedicatedly on our temple board. The temple board is a service where it's kind of behind the scenes. You really don't see what's going on. We deal with the finances, we deal with kind of big directional kind of questions, making sure things are in alignment. And it's a tough service being on the board because the expectations are high. You often get, what do you do? What does this person do on the board? But yet the weight is very heavy because it's you carry a lot of responsibility. So it's a very serious thing, things that we don't see. But it's important that we recognize the devotees who make sacrifices in their lives. It's not something you can show up one time or not show up one time. It's something you really have to be dedicated to. So it's a personal sacrifice, it's a family sacrifice, and devotees who do it, they do it out of their love for Srila Prabhupada, making sure that his movement that he came to start continues to flourish. So the first devotee we want to appreciate is His Grace Ramachandra Prabhu. So, Prabhu, please come on up, please. This is a devotee. On this auspicious day again of Ramnavami, we want to present to you, on behalf of the board, a certificate of appreciation for all of your hard service to here at ISKCON Philadelphia, serving Shishi Bhattacharya Hari, Devnath Baladev, Sibhadra, Shishi Bolitai, and His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Please help offer our gratitude to Ramachandra Prabhu. Let's raise our hands and chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so very much, Prabhu. And we want to offer today the Lifetime ISKCON of Philadelphia Lifetime Service Award to His Grace Kaivalya Prabhu for his decades, probably 4 decades at least in Philadelphia, maybe 5 decades in Philadelphia, steadfastly serving with leadership here at ISKCON of Philadelphia. During his time as a board member, we must have transitioned through 4 or 5 different administrations. Hasn't always been easy, hasn't always been smooth, but Kaivalya Prabhu has been like the rock that's really dependable, focused, reliable, gave people confidence, and the service that you've done to Shri Radhashar Bihari over these years, we're deeply, deeply grateful for everything that you've given. Kaivalya Prabhu recently, he retired from his medical practice. At the same time, started to change, his focus in Krishna consciousness. He retired from the board, and it's really, as you get to see, he's just about to go on the altar right after this to worship the deities, and he's, giving wonderful classes. He's spending more time traveling now that COVID's over. We're just extremely grateful. We wanted to take this opportunity on this auspicious day to offer our great appreciation to you. So please help me offer our appreciation. Kaivalya Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Jai.
We're going to have Arti in just a moment, Kirtan, and when the doors open, you'll see that there's at least 56 offerings of food that devotees have brought to offer. So thank you to all those that have brought offerings to the Lord. We do want to thank our Sunday feast sponsor tonight, Mother Nilambari. Are you here? There you are. And it is being sponsored on behalf of her granddaughter, Shrinika Bagachi. So there she comes up. We're going to give some happy birthday blessings to Shrinika. Hare Krishna. Happy birthday. How many years are you? How many years? It's her 3rd birthday, so please help me wish her happy birthday. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you're interested in sponsoring a Sunday feast on behalf of a loved one, an anniversary, a birthday, or just for the blessings of the devotees, you can do so at the front desk. Lastly, I want to invite Radhika up. She's an announcement about next week's 8-hour kirtan.
Hare Krishna everyone. So next Saturday we have an 8-hour youth kirtan here at ISKCON in Philadelphia. We are inviting youth from all across the country coming here to participate and sing for the pleasure of their lordships and Srila Prabhupada. But again, this kirtan won't be the same without the participation of all the devotees here at ISKCON in Philadelphia. So I humbly request all of you to please come and please participate in this kirtan and have an ecstatic time singing for their lordships and for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. So please everyone come out April 16th from 12 to 8 p.m. Hare Krishna.
So we're now going to have kirtan. Radhika, she'll be leading the kirtan tonight. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai.
Bye.